Hello and welcome to Sarah's Learning Corner. Today we're going to be learning how to set up an assignment on Moodle or eClass if you're at the University of Alberta. So first things first, once you're in your eClass site, let's make sure to turn editing on. Then you'll scroll down to whatever week you want the assignment to be posted in. We'll do it in week 1, and it's just right up here at the top. So we'll go ahead and name this week 1 assignment. If you have a rubric, you can just drag and drop it into this spot here. If you want something else like due March 3rd, 2020, and then you can click display description on course page. So you'll see due March 3rd, 2020 listed under the assignment. We've got our rubric here. If there's any other important documents, maybe there is a template that students need to fill out, you can drop that here. You can have multiple files. The next one is availability. So if you only want students to be able to submit starting on a certain date, then you'd want to have this enabled. We're going to turn that off though. Due date, of course, is the most important one. So up here I've said it's due March 3rd, 2020, and we're just going to have it due at 5 p.m. You can also put a cutoff date on, so that means that as of that date, nobody can submit. With the due date, students can still submit after March 3rd at 5 p.m. It will just be flagged as a late submission, so that if you're taking marks off for late submissions, you know in the assignment that this person was late. So typically we do not enable the cutoff date. Another little trick here is you can have remind me to grade by and enable that if you want to, but usually we will unenable that as well. And if it's an assignment that doesn't really have a due date, maybe they're submitting whenever they finish their clinical, you can always just unenable the due date, and then the Dropbox will not flag any items as late. So we'll go down to here. Typically we want to leave the maximum number of uploaded files and the maximum submission size pretty high, but maybe you've been very specific and said they can only submit 1 document. You can change this to 1 if you like. And then down here we have accepted file types. This can be very handy as sometimes students might submit something that's not like a doc or docx or PDF, and sometimes Moodle will have a bit of difficulty with that. So you can always go to the choose button, and depending on what your assignment is, maybe you only want spreadsheets, but typically it's going to be where is it? The document files that we're interested in. So you can just hit this and it will do all of those. Or if you prefer, you can select specific things like a PDF, a docx, and a doc. So we'll just unclick that. You can hit expand again if you want to double check, but now you can see this is what we've restricted our submission to, and you just have to scroll all the way to the bottom and hit save changes. Perfect. So feedback types, typically we leave this alone, although sometimes with larger submissions, students who are submitting their clinical assessments, it's handy to take off the annotate PDF option. You can't annotate on the assignment anymore, but it does speed things up. Under submission settings, we normally leave these as no, but you can ask students, make sure they hit the submit button, or there is a submission statement that you can make them agree to. Down here we have the group submission settings. So this defaults to no, but if your assignment is for groups, you'd want to change this to yes. And then you get a couple more options. So require a group to make submission, yes. Require all members to submit. This is just automatically set to no. And then grouping for student groups. This is where you would select the grouping. So you would make your groups, and then you would want to group those groups into a grouping and then that would be what this is. Notifications, so you can receive notifications when you get a submission. However, with most class sizes, that would be a bit too much. There's the notify graders about late submissions if you want. And then default setting for notify students means that it would automatically select the checkbox on the grading form that says notify students. So as soon as you finished marking their assignment, they would get an email saying that they have a grade. We typically don't want to do this as it's more fair to release the marks to all of the students at once than one at a time. Now down here for grade, you will normally want this to be set at point. You might change it to scale if this is a pass-fail item, and then you would come down here and select pass-fail. However, for this one, we will be using points, and you can also use none. Maybe this is just a drop box for feedback. Maybe it's a drop box for weekly assignments that aren't really worth marks, but you just want them to be completed. Selecting none would be the best option then. So we'll just go back to point, and I'm going to say that this assignment is out of 35 marks. The grading method is typically going to be simple direct grading. However, if you want to input your rubric into eClass, you can come down here and select rubric. But let's leave this at simple direct grading. And then if your gradebook is already set up when you're creating this assignment, you can put it into the category. That's discussed in one of my other videos for setting up gradebook. However, feel free to leave it uncategorized and move it at a different time. If your assignment, if students need to receive a particular grade to pass the assignment, you can set that here. Maybe I want all of my students to get a minimum of 20 marks. This way in the gradebook, it will get flagged as a different color if a student does not meet that grade. So you'll always kind of have that cue in the gradebook knowing that they didn't make the mark, and then you can do whatever remedial activities you need to do with them. And we'll typically use the blind marking and marking workflow alone. So common module settings. Maybe you want to keep this hidden from students for right now, but typically we'll show it on the course page. You'll want to have this as separate groups. That way in the assignment, you can filter it by your section so that you are just marking your section and you don't have to worry about everybody being there. And then restrict access is going to be the same as it is with everything. Maybe I don't want them to have access to this Dropbox until March 1st. Maybe they need to get a certain grade on a different assignment before they can access this one. But for right now, we're just going to leave it with no restrictions. So we can save and return to course. And now you can see week 1 assignment, due March 3rd. When I click on it, you can see it's got my week 1 assignment rubric telling me how many people have submitted, the due date, the time remaining, and then I can just view all my submissions once they've been submitted. And that is how you create an assignment. Thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to leave it in the comments section below, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Thanks and have a wonderful day.